Front Office Sports continuing coverage of Super Bowl 59 live from Radio Row. I'm Baker Machado, and we're pleased to be joined by the All Elite Wrestling CEO, Tony Khan, here at Radio Row. Tony, good. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me. It's great to see you. Thanks for having me. It's a great Radio Row, and it's been a lot of great interviews, and I really appreciate you having me.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's talk first about the game this weekend. You're going to the game. We obviously know you and your father, big parts of the NFL and the Jacksonville Jaguars. Any expectations for the game, and are you excited for it? Who are you looking out for?
Well, I mean, it's a great thing for the NFL to be able to be here to all the events around the Super Bowl, but I think the most important part is the game itself.
Right.
And as somebody who loves football, I think the Super Bowl is the greatest thing in the entire world. And when I was growing up, I watched the game religiously, and now being able to go, I've gone every year for 14 straight years as a spectator. I hope to eventually have, hopefully sooner rather than later, the Jaguars participating in the game.
Someday.
And but this is a great thing, and the Super Bowl really is, I think, the biggest place, the biggest destination, and the biggest event in the entire world by far. So it's great to be here, and I'm excited about the game, but as part of the NFL, I can't really make predictions about scores.
Oh, yes, and I understand that as well. But I think you correctly mentioned, like, at the Super Bowl, you're getting a mix of a bunch of different personalities from all over different leagues. You've had soccer leagues here, you have wrestling leagues, you have wrestlers and MMA fighters and everyone. So let's talk about All Elite Wrestling. This is clearly, obviously, you have a diversified portfolio, but this seems to be the thing that is taking a big chunk of your time right now. How do you sort of continue to evolve this league and this sport when there are a lot of different wrestling and MMA leagues out there?
Well, I really appreciate you asking. Right now, it's an exciting time in sports media. AEW, we just launched on Max streaming, and for years we've been a TV company. We debuted 5 years ago. We have a signature show, Wednesday Night Dynamite, that we launched, and that's been on 5 years. It's on every Wednesday on TBS, and now it's also streaming on Max. Mm-hmm. And a couple years ago, we added another huge show, and that is Saturday Night Collision. I'm actually going to head to Houston tomorrow for Saturday Collision on TNT. It's been a great show, a staple on TNT, and it also streams on Max. Mm-hmm. It's a great show. Every week kicks off with Elton John. Saturday Night's All Right for Fighting, and it's a great way to start Saturday night's fights. And I really love pro wrestling so much. It's a 52-week year sport. It's unlike everything else. You got to go 365 days, basically. There's very little time. If you get a day here and there, it's a miracle. But it's no weeks off, and there's no other sport like that. So I think it's really cool that now, not only are we a TV company, AEW, that you can see on TBS every Wednesday and TNT every Saturday, but also the idea that, streaming is obviously like a very important component, and to be associated with what I think is the best streaming service for us and the best streaming service with the best content, and that's Max.
Let's dive into that, because, I mean, you're right. The deal that you have with Warner Brothers Discovery is $170 million over 4 years. But was the streaming aspect of that the most important? Because we see the NFL getting into Amazon deals, Netflix deals, Netflix getting into deals with WWE Raw. Is that sort of the important part here, given sort of the cord-cutting nature that we're seeing in the industry?
Well, I don't think that's exactly
okay.
Right. But we have a very large deal. It's a great deal, and we have it's very exciting that we have for years, like I said, we've had a great partnership with Warner Brothers, and now Warner Brothers Discovery. The company's really made a huge investment, a huge opportunity for AEW. And what's really exciting for us is we've been a top show on TBS every Wednesday and TNT every Saturday. We've been consistently a top show year in, year out, and for years as a TV company. But now as streaming services grow, and that's a huge part of sports and sports media rights, I think it's a really exciting time for pro wrestling that AEW, the shows have been so strong since we went on Max, and the new fans that are coming in and they're seeing AEW for the first time, and the fans for years. I mean, there may be fans that stopped having cable over the last 5 years since we launched on TBS and TNT that maybe now are on streaming services, and Max is one of the top streaming services. So potentially we're even having fans that haven't seen the show since the beginning if they haven't had cable in the last 3-4 years. So I think it's an exciting time for AEW. The shows have been, I think, better than ever. We just had this Wednesday in Atlanta, one of our best shows we've ever had on Wednesday Night Dynamite. We're going into our Revolution pay-per-view, and then our Collision show. It's been so strong. We've got this really exciting run we're on. We had these great shows the last 2 weeks on Collision. I'm heading to Houston tomorrow for Collision live on TNT Saturday night, and then coming back here for the game. And then we're doing another show for Wednesday Night Dynamite this week in Austin before we head to Australia for the first ever AEW Collision Australia Grand Slam. It's our biggest collision ever. So it's a really exciting run we're on.
So how... Obviously, stars at the end of the day matter when you're growing this and developing this, because that's going to bring in new fans. How do you develop and create these stars, given the fact that there are other wrestling leagues where there are identifiable names? So how do you sort of build that in for you guys?
You know what's great? We have what I think is the best roster of wrestlers in the world. AEW is where the best wrestle. So for me, I'm really excited because we recently just had, and it was perfect timing with the launch of AEW on the Max streaming service that all aligned very well strategically and perfectly, that we had two of our top stars come back from filming projects and two of our top stars come back from injury. And we, one of our top stars from the very, very beginning of the company, behind the scenes, he's a top executive, and in the ring, he's also like one of the all-time greats, and it's Kenny Omega. And then also Adam Copeland, the Rated R superstar, who's an Emmy nominee right now, also the first pro wrestler ever Emmy nominee. And Adam Copeland's huge, and they both just came back, and they're both top stars for us. And then two more of our top stars, MJF, he was filming Happy Gilmore 2, and he's a prominent part of that film, and now he's back in AEW. And MJF's one of our biggest stars and former world champion and a huge part of the company, biggest villain in wrestling, arguably.
You need a villain. He's
one of the biggest, best villains of all. And then also we had Samoa Joe filming a project with Twisted Metal. And so now to get another former world champion who's one of the great stars and a huge box office draw and one of the great people in and out of the ring, and a top man, Hall of Fame legend, Samoa Joe, him back too. So it's like a real perfect time for us because we have all these top stars coming back, and we've had all these top stars, like you asked about, that have really risen to the occasion. We've had so many great free agent signings. Will Ospreay is somebody who right now is in the conversation for the very best wrestlers on the planet. And there's so many more great wrestlers in the league right now. So it's an exciting time. We have a great world champion, Jon Moxley, and I think the best women's world championship scene right now. I don't know if you've ever seen All About Eve or Sunset Boulevard.
Yes, of course. With Nicole Scherzinger, I've seen her in Sunset Boulevard. Yeah.
Yes. Well, ripped from Sunset Boulevard, ripped from that great movie, Norma Desmond and Gloria Swanson. I think it's really something to think about. It's the first ever time a pro wrestling rivalry has been inspired by that, and really also inspired by, I don't know if you've seen All About Eve.
Yeah.
All About Eve. So really a rivalry inspired by that. The world champion, much like Eve and All About Eve, has tried to take in the legendary, Margot Channing, Betty Davis.
Right.
Was basically, we had that legendary figure like Betty Davis, timeless Toni Storm, who was the world champion, and she took in a protege, the Glamour Mariah May, and the Glamour Mariah May is a very accomplished wrestler. She is now the world champion. She's taken everything from timeless Toni Storm, and in London, England, at Wembley Stadium, in a huge packed stadium.
That's great.
Yeah,
Tony, you've got a great roster of all of these people, and it's great to sort of see new and emerging sports that are coming out there and the disruption that you see in the sports industry. And of course, we know anything new that's coming out on the horizon, you and your family, of course, are going to be a part of that conversation. Tony, thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, I really appreciate you having me. This is great. Well, hopefully we'll get you to AEW at a show.
Yes, we would love to. We would love to talk about that. That's Tony Khan, everyone, the CEO over at AEW. And don't go anywhere. We got more of your favorite interviews coming your way from Front Office Sports at Radio Row.